So you want to learn how to operate a business effectively. So if you're wanting to outsource, there's a few things that you should consider. First thing is what kind of business operation do you run? So if you're in e-commerce, just an online sole proprietor trying to run a business, a startup, then outsourcing to a third-party logistics provider might be the choice for you. Now, when you're thinking about outsourcing, you want to make sure that you understand that there's two different levels that you can think about it. So there's a monitored outsourcing and there's orchestrated outsourcing. With monitored outsourcing, it's going to be focusing on offshore. So you can think about other countries. So Ford, GM, American Express, they've partnered with India, the Philippines, China, and different companies just to provide cheaper labor for themselves. They've been doing this for decades. Then there's orchestrated outsourcing, where you're actually dealing with a third-party logistics provider. However, they're going to be a little bit more dealing with the day-to-day operations of your business. So you can think about Walmart. They have vendors that will, bring them food so they can stock. Same with fast food companies or any chains, really. Things like that. Now, it's interesting because a lot of those larger corporations that we were talking about, when it came to outsourcing back in the 80s, it was because most companies, what they did is they actually would keep everything in-house, but it became not very effective because they would have monopolies that were eventually taken away because of acts that were passed on the federal level. So they did away with monopolies, so there's more competition. So China and India in the 80s took advantage of this. So what they ended up doing was providing, like I was saying earlier, cheaper labor, but they were unskilled workers. Now, what happened with the internet becoming mainstream in the 90s is lots of white-collar jobs were starting to get outsourced. So some people lost jobs in the 90s. People were not very happy with that. So in turn, what that's led to us now is we have a bunch of skilled and specialized workers across the world who, when we're a company here in the US looking for cheap labor, it's not as cheap as it once was because these people are now skilled and they're specialized. So it's a little bit different now. Outsourcing is, the first wave of outsourcing is dead, essentially, but there's a second wave that's came to fruition. Now, that's not the only option, outsourcing. There's also in-house that you also have the ability to do. So the difference between those obviously is with in-house operations, you take control of everything. It's a lot more expensive that way, but sometimes that's the best alternative. A good example would be if you're at a concert and 100 Uber drivers show up. That's not very efficient because each Uber driver usually can just take one passenger. They treat every transaction as its own deal. Whereas if a bunch of friends paid you, let's say $10 each or $5 each to be their designated driver and to take them somewhere, if it was a really busy night, then you're going to make sure that you have every single one of those people that paid you money in your car, and then you're going to make sure that every single one of them gets back to their apartment safe. So it's just a lot more efficient. You save on a lot of gas. So it's just different for a company. Sometimes that's a better option. Now, if outsourcing is absolutely the way that you need to go, and you're not worried about outsourcing in a lower developing country where they're not going to have the operational capabilities or that capacity to maybe stock or that data to provide you with on a regular basis, because in developing and lower wage countries, they're not going to have access to that. If you're absolutely set on doing outsourcing, make sure you ask that third-party logistics provider 4 questions. The first one is you want to make sure that third-party logistics provider has experience working with a company that's similar to yours, okay? The second is you want to make sure that they understand the key performance indicators that you want for your company. That way they can accurately show their value and show their worth to you. Third would be you want to make sure that the company is continuously trying to cut costs and improve. You don't want to have to make sure that you're the one that's always letting them know, hey, it's time for you guys to cut costs. You need them to take initiative. 4 would be you want to make sure that this third-party logistics provider aligns with your company's core values and their mission statement, or your mission statement. If all those things are set, then you should be good to go with that third-party logistics provider. Other than that, you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.